Hello and welcome to episode 11 of Game Dev Tutorials. Today is going to be the first part of getting the spider mob working. We'll also have some cleanup to do as well. So, we are going to create a parent class for Unit and SpawnPoint called Attackable Object, called Destructible Object or whatever, but to me this is something that you actually physically attack. Both will be attackable. So, we want to be able to have that common parent. And I'll show you why when we get into things. We want to add ID, so the player ID, to player. And then owner ID to attackable object. And the reason we do this is so that you can differentiate between the owners just based on the mob itself. You could also store the entire owner or essentially a pointer to the owner. But in this case, for our purposes for now, the int will do just fine, so we'll start there. We're going to create the spider class and the spiderling class. We are not going to be finished with either one of these classes in this tutorial. Notice the part 1. The next one will expand on their AIs and make them a little bit more unique. We are going to create the portal class and egg sac class. Which are spawn points. Portal is what we already have. We're gonna use the code that we have in spawn point for portal. So that's just gonna be a quick one. But egg sac will work slightly different. We are going to add a delegate for adding spawn points to our game, and we are going to change add mob and add spawn point to add to the correct player based on the owner ID. So that's our goals. This is going to be a relatively long one. It ended up so long when I was doing it for testing that I had to break it up into 2 pieces. I wanted to do a lot with this spider class, and I just can't get it all into one video. So we're going to do one today, and then the next one will be expanding on that and adding like a building class and stuff as well. So we're going to expand on our little game quite a bit over the next 2 tutorials. Alright, well, let's get right into it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create that attackable object class. And we're just going to put it just straight into world? Yeah, let's put it in world. So we're going to add that sucker. You know what? Actually, this is not the smartest way to do this. Let's just copy unit for now. Paste it into world. I'm gonna call it Attackable Object. Okay. And then I wanted to mention why we were doing this. So let's take 1 second and kind of look at what we have for unit and spawn point, right? So unit, here we have thus a variables, see? And then we have in spawn point, oh, we didn't add those here. Okay, so we are going to need all of those variables because we want spawn point to be attackable. So we are going to need health and hit distance and all these kinds of things. Speed, not so much, but that's one variable, and we could actually use speed for something different than the speed of its motion. You can use it for the speed of its timer if you really wanted to. But they're very similar classes, and so they have a dead, they have the hit dis, they have all these things that are so similar, and when you have those things, oftentimes you're going to want to do similar things with them, like kill them. And so having a parent class that can hold the virtuals for each of the different functions that you can then override is huge. It streamlines your code and allows you to stuff them all into a list and then run their subsequent functions that are overloaded and do what you actually want them to do. So like get hit could be overloaded for each different kind of thing, like a building or a spawn point or a unit. And then the next thing you know, you're able to reduce your code, to a third, because there's 3 loops. You'd have to do the same code 3 times, or you can stuff them all in the same list, and run it once. The cost of doing so is minimal, and the upside on your code's readability is magnificently better. So this is a big deal. So if we go to unit real fast, attackable object, we're keeping everything that unit used to have. All of these should be virtuals because it's the parent class, or override because that does override basic 2D. And then all of this should be fine. I think that's all there. Let me quick build that sucker. Oh, you know what it doesn't like is that this doesn't say attackable object yet. Okay. That and that. Alright. Now in unit we can remove all this now. Because it's all in attackable object. Right? And then spawn point. There we go. Spawn point is now an attackable object. It doesn't need dead and doesn't need hit distance. It does need a spawn timer, so that's a separate piece, and that differentiates it from unit, which is wonderful. That's the whole point of having this parent class, is that we can differentiate children classes off of it. So great, we've done that. I'm pretty sure that doesn't need to be virtual, and I'm pretty sure we don't need it at all, actually. Spawning's good. Pass mob is good. Unit, I didn't go through unit. We should do that. Get hit. That looks like exactly what I want for get hit. So we just gotta make sure this one's here. Yeah, we're here. So perfect. That's what we want for get hit for right now. That's all good. Spawn points. If I come up here, I can say I don't want spawn points to die in one hit. So I'm gonna say, in general, without changing it or overriding it later, spawn points have 3 health. Could be 5, could be 10, could be whatever you want it to be. In this case, we're going to make it 3 health just so that we can see it work. Eventually, we're actually not going to be killing spawn points in this tutorial. We're going to do it next time. This is already going to run really long. Okay, so we have that. We now have a new parent class called Attackable Object. It'll be super helpful. It thinks we already have a unit, but I changed it, so building it. Yep, build succeeded, we're good. Alright, so we did that. Let's quickly pop in. We wanted to add player ID. So, player, and then we're going to have public int ID, and then player is going to require ID, so int ID, and then ID equals ID. Perfect. That should cause some errors, but it didn't, so let's build it. Now it's causing errors. Okay, so we need to bring in int ID and then pass in ID, and then we need to bring in there we go, int ID and ID. Okay, now that'll cause more errors. Our user, ourself, I always make the player, the current player, ID 1. And as long as you're not doing multiplayer game, I highly recommend you pick an ID that you always are. 1 probably is the easiest to remember. And keep it that way. And that way you never have to think about, when you're debugging, trying to figure out what the user actually is supposed to be. And then 2. So, yay! And if we've added more AI players, 3, then 4, then 5, then 6, whatever it is, those are our IDs, okay? Now, while we have this now, because this is working, we're passing it all the way through. Actually, let me double check. Yeah, ID. So we're good. When we come... Oh, we can't do it yet. We have to do it. We have to do owner ID first before we can edit the functions. So public int owner ID. Now ID would signify what the ID of the attackable object is. If you just say ID, people will read that as the ID of the type of thing that it is. So it would be the ID of the object, not the ID of the owner. So you should put in owner ID here. In player, we said ID because it's literally the ID of the player. So that denotes properly. When it came to Attackable Object, it's not. It's the owner's ID, the owner of that object's ID. That may seem like, well, that's dumb. Why would you do it that way? Trust me, when you start getting into databasing and when you start having more than one ID in a class, you're going to want to have a really good descriptor of what that ID is. I can't stress it enough. It may seem stupid now, but naming your things properly really, really helps. So just consider the names of things. In this case, it is the owner or the player ID. You could call it player ID. That would be fine. I like to say it's the owner ID because that's the way I think of it. That's the ID of the player that owns this object. Anyway, minor thing, but I just wanted to cover it. It's super important as you get to be having more and more and more complicated programs that you name things really well. All of this stays, but in user or unit, we actually don't need all this stuff because we already have it. And we're just doubling it up. And until we decide we want it to be different, like we did in SpawnPoint by adding here, then there's just no point in having it there, right? You don't want to have the code twice because if you came in and changed it here, all of a sudden unit would just override it all. So you don't want to do that. You need to try to keep your code clean if you can. Okay, so we did that. And that should throw us... Nope, not yet. That won't throw us errors until we do this. So we're going to add it to our constructor, int owner ID, right? And then right here we say owner ID equals owner ID. So there, that starts throwing us errors, and as always, like I told you last time, I just go through it recursively. Here's our errors. Double click the first one. We say, oh, okay, let's add owner ID. No big deal. And let's pass owner ID down. Perfect. And let's do the other one. Owner ID. Let's add owner ID. Perfect. Okay, so that's that. Now it's going to complain about these puppies, right? And we just have to put in ID right there. Very simple stuff. I probably should have done this earlier. This is something that I didn't feel like I had time to do earlier. It's costing us time now, but I didn't want to get too into confusing things early on because I didn't want people to feel like I was glossing over things. I wanted to be able to explain why IDs are important. And I feel like now I've had some more time to do that, so that makes me happy. When I got started, I thought that everything people would say was maybe not the best way to do things. And there are times where I was right, but where the norms were maybe not, at least in my opinion, the best way to do things. In this case, IDs should really be descriptive and not messed with. So that is my opinion. Okay, so we have that. Okay. So now we have the owner ID working. Let me build it just to make sure there's no more. Oh, still have one more. See? We'll just keep going on these until we're done. And there we go. And there we go. That's going to come up with some issues. But remember, we're just... spawn point is going to pass its owner ID, right? Because it's a spawn point, it doesn't have an ID, it has an owner ID, into the mob that it's creating to give it the same owner ID as created. Now, you actually could create from a spawn point a mob that goes into a different owner. Why you would do that? Not really clear on why you would do that, but if that felt like what you needed to do for a game, you could do that. Okay, next we want to build again, make sure that all of our errors get through. We are now out of errors. We've successfully added owner ID. Great. Now we need to go into world and we need to do a little bit of triage here and then add the spawn location thing as well. So first thing we're going to do, just ignore that line of code there for a minute. we are going to say unit equals, unit temp unit equals unit info. So this is here, but it's actually unit now. So that's slightly different. And it's okay. We don't need it to be mob anymore. We could change this, but that's just one more thing to do, and I'm not going to worry about it at this exact moment. So if user dot ID equals temp unit dot owner ID, then we are going to user dot add unit temp unit. Now you can see how this could get really bad really fast, I'm sure, if you had, say, 40 players, right? This would be atrocious. But at this exact time, this is AI player. There we go. Dot ID equals temp unit dot owner ID. At the moment, I don't want to combine these two. I could put them into one list, and we will eventually put both user and AI player in the same list. It makes our code slightly more complicated in some places, and in this case, it would just mean we could loop it and make it much simpler. I want to kind of go over that at a separate point, and so I'm not going to do it now, but if you had 40 players, you would have to have 39 else ifs and one if, and that would get atrocious. I mean, that would be absolutely horrible code-wise to read and edit. So in this case, not such a big deal, but in the future, it could become a very, very horrible thing to deal with. And so now we're going to quickly copy this. Let's see, add spawn, LMNOPS comes here. So PAWNPOINT. Okay, so we did that. Now, this changes the spawn point. This changes the spawn point. This changes to spawn point, right? And then temp spawn point, temp spawn point, temp spawn point, temp spawn point. And then we need an add spawn point. So let's go to definition. That'll jump us right to it, right? And then we'll have add spawn point, and then spawn point, not add spawn point, and then this should be spawn points. Yeah? Okay. Now, a quick thing that you might want to do, and this is just to fix errors right now. Right now, all of our code would work without this, but let's say we created a bug and it wasn't working out so good. Because we accessed add unit not from the places that we currently add it, and we had an unassigned owner ID. Then we could get a bug. So temp unit equals unit info. So if we just say temp unit dot owner ID equals ID, we've now alleviated that problem. If you don't feel like doing this, if you feel like you're going to be perfect all the time and make sure it's 100% correct, you don't need this. This is not required. But because we're new, we're going to do this. Now, personally, if I were finalizing my game, I would not have this, even though it's such a minor cost. I'm super, super careful. That went in the wrong spot. Oh boy. Oh, what did I do? There we go. I was pushing the wrong buttons. Okay. Same thing here. So we're gonna have spawn point. Temp spawn point. Spawn point. temp spawn point, temp spawn point. I think that's correct. Okay, again, don't have to have that, but I'm going to add it here just because I know that it would have been super helpful for me to do that on my first game, or my second game, and maybe even my fifth game. Okay, so keep that in mind. And then we're going to jump real quick back into world, and we're going to change out add spawn point to add spawn point. And we're going to do that to both. Alright, and that should work now too. Let's jump into game globals, add our delegate real fast. So pass mob, we'll say pass spawn point. And we're going to go into world, come up to right here. We're going to say game globals dot. I don't even know what I pushed right there. Pass spawn point equals add spawn point. Okay, so now when we call that, we're adding spawn points to our game. That'll be important for Spider, because Spider's going to add those things. All right, so we've gone through. We have added owner ID to everything, and we are now adding to the proper owner ID owner when we create a spawn point or a unit. Let's check our prompt real fast. So we've done that. We've done that. We're about to do that. We did this. And then we'll be just to dealing with portals and spiders, which will be great. Alright, so let's quickly... Oh, we already did it. We did that. Yeah. Okay, we're good to go. Let's start with spider. So, we have a good mob. For right now, we're just going to copy it. And we're going to paste it. Though these will have very different AIs later. It's a good starting spot. It's a working mob. We can literally do that, and oh my gosh, we got a new mob that works. It was that simple. Speed. You know what? I didn't do this before. Let's do like 1.5 speed. Let's just make it slightly different, right? It's a big fat spider carrying egg sacs. You know. Let's change its speed just slightly, and then what we're also going to do is we're going to do. So remember we set the health to 3 here. Our spider's going to have 3 health, so we want that. That'll be awesome. Okay, forgot the H. Okay, so we have 3 health, and we are looking at having a slightly different AI, right? We know we want to spawn an egg sac, so create yourself a timer for that spawning time. In this case, what I want to do is I want to say I want a relatively long timer. So 8 seconds is pretty long in games. I know that's not very long in life, but for a game it's relatively long. But I don't want to wait 8 seconds for it to spawn a spider. So what I'm going to tell it to do is say spawn timer dot add to timer, and then we're going to add 4 seconds to that timer. So now it only takes 4 seconds to spawn the first egg sac, and after that it will take another 8 seconds to spawn the next one. Okay, so that's awesome. Now we've dealt with spawn timers before, and we did those in SpawnPoint, so why not just go and grab that code, paste it in update, and change this function out. That spawn mob is no good anymore. We want spawn egg sac, but you know what? They're really similar, right? So let's grab it. The less you can write or type, the better. First of all, it's faster, but second of all, it removes errors, removes bugs. If you have a working piece of code, use it, Don't just gung-ho it all the time. Think of what you're doing. So we're spawning egg sac here. That's going to be the name of our function. It goes there. And we are going to now call pass spawn point. Okay? We're obviously not passing in an imp. What we're passing in is an egg sac. So what we're going to do is we're going to break this on purpose. Right? That'll create an error. So now recursively I know I need to come back to this. And so it's very easy to find it. So if I go over here, I can just double click on the error and it brings me back, right? So I'm breaking this on purpose so I can come back to it and so that I don't leave a bug in the game. Alright, we have a couple things to do with spawn point. First of all, we need to create a folder called spawn points. Yay. The next thing we want to do is we want to add a new item. No, we need to just copy it. So we're going to copy, paste, spawn point. Okay? We're going to rename it portal real fast because I forgot to do portal and I should have done this first, but we'll get it. Copy that text there because we don't like to type. Make sure you're in the right one, which you are. Change those out. We don't need this. We don't need all this. We are a spawn point. We don't need all this. That's all in spawn point. We are going to keep this function, but we're going to override it. Okay. And then draw doesn't do anything, so great. So we have portal. Now, here's the difference here. We don't need this because we know what a portal is. That is my wonderful little portal art I gave you guys last time, right? So 2D spawn points portal. Okay. Dimensions wise, that we can just give whatever dimensions we want. All portals should probably be the same size, I would think. And if you wanted a different size portal, you could either not do what I'm about to do. Oh, that was wrong. Vector 2. Or you could just create a yellow portal or whatever and give it a different size if you wanted to. We need the owner ID passed in. So, great. We don't need dimensions, so we just need position and owner ID. Now, those all get passed back into spawn point. And now when we go to player AI, we need to change these out. It will then complain at us and say, ooh, we don't like all these extra parameters. That's fine. We'll get rid of them. Right? Makes it simpler anyway. Be easier if we only had one of them, but we have 3. Okay, so there. Now we have portals. This one we still can't deal with yet. But now that we have a working portal, let's save it or build the project. Either one. I like to build the project because that saves everything, not just the file I'm working on. And then we're going to copy portal. We are going to paste portal. And we're going to say spider egg sac. Now, you could have more than one kind of egg sac. That's why I'm calling it spider egg sac. Okay? And portal is a great starting point. Okay? The difference between portal and an egg sac is that after 3 spiders come out of the egg sac, and you could make that whatever number you want it to be. In my case, I'm going to say 3. I want it to go away. So int max spawns and total spawns. Oops, semicolons would be good. Alright. Total spawns equals 0. Why? Because we haven't spawned any yet. And then max spawns equals 3. Again, you want it to be 20? Make it 20. That's on you. Okay? The next thing we're going to do is we are going to change what spawn mob does. And the reason for that is that we need to A, change it to spawning spiderlings. B, we need to add to the total spawns each time a mob is created. And C, if the total spawns is greater than the max spawns, then, or greater than or equal to the max spawns, then we need to go away. Right? So let's do all those things. Let's start with mob, temp mob equals, and then we're going to say new. Oh, we don't have spiderling yet. Okay. We will leave this broken as well. Right there. Okay. We did create a spider. So copy, paste, rename, spiderling. You could call it little spider, small spider. You could call it baby spider. Call it whatever you want. In this case, I'm calling it spiderling. We're going to make spiderling small, so our dimensions are smaller. We are not going to have a spawn timer. Our health is 1, so let's reduce it. And our spiderlings are going to be fast. Right? So that's a little bit different too, right? They will not spawn egg sacs. And they will not spawn egg sacs. Okay, that was very simple, right? Let's jump into spider, maybe make him a little, him, her, whatever you want to call it, a little bigger. Let's maybe go with 45. Just a little extra big. Okay, now we have spiderlings. So we can come into here, and we're going to say new spiderling. And then all of this is valid information right here. So let's just copy paste it up. Done. And then we're now passing in temp mob. So first thing we need to do is say if temp mob not equal null. And in this case it can't be null, but there are some things you can do in here, and we're going to actually do them in Portal, that can make this be null. So we're just going to arrow check it. It doesn't cost much to do so, and honestly, if you take the time to do your arrow checking, it does help you in the future. So total spawns plus plus, and then if total spawns is greater than or equal to max spawns, dead equals true. Now, awesome, right? It's dead. You know what we haven't done? I don't think we've removed dead spawn points. So let's go into player. Where is player? Player. And we have spawn points, and we have not removed them. So let's do this. Remove that, I guess. Let's do copy paste those on there. Very simple. But now we're moving them. So yay. I mentioned Portal. We wanted to do something a little bit different. So let's go back into there and let's look at this. One thing we can do to vary our game is create a random number generator. And you know what? I didn't put that in my goals, but that goes in globals. So let me grab it. I haven't typed this in probably a decade, so just it's a quick copy paste and I'll explain it. That's right, it's up in here. Globals. Okay. That'll suffice. Okay, so this is a C# class. It's part of C#. And it's called a random. And rand is what I call it. Why? I don't know. I named it that like a decade ago, and I put it in my globals class, and I've never ever added a new one because this is just my random number generator. Okay. And then new random. I initialize it right here. It costs nothing to initialize. So, not literally nothing, but I mean, maybe the equivalent of like a couple vector 2s. It's just nothing. So, that's there. We can now start using it. And then the way we use it, let's go to Portal, and I'll show you how to use it. So first things first, let's get ourselves a new random number. So int num equals globals dot rand dot next. Now this is the lowest number you can get from your random number generator, and then this is the highest -1. So I always do that. Why? Because I want to see the number that it can get to, not have the number in there that is the highest -1. So if you just said 10, the highest number would be 9. But I want it to be 10, so I added +1. This is pretty normal. I've seen this in code from a lot of people. I didn't come up with this myself. I got this from looking at other people's code, either on Stack Overflow or all kinds of different places. This is really normal. I'm not going to say it's the majority of people. I don't know. But it's normal. So the reason they have it the way it is so that you can put the count of a list into it, and it will not return you a number that will overflow your list or array. So that's why it exists the way it is. But when you're just putting a number in, it looks funny. So I always put +1 at the end. Okay, so now let's say we get a number. Oops. We get ourselves a number that's less than 5. So this is a 50% chance, right? So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 out of 10 or 11 options, I guess, is not quite 50%. Will run us in this. So what we want to do is say, maybe we'll do mob temp mob equals null. Ooh, that's strange. I told you we might have the ability to have a temp mob that was null. Interesting, right? Alright, so we want this imp here. We say temp mob equals our imp. And then else if num is less than 8, right? So a little less than 30% chance. We want to spawn a spider. So now our portal can spawn imps or spiders. I have slightly less than 50% chance for an imp and slightly less than 30% chance for spider. We are going to return temp mob, right? But only if temp mob is not equal null. So notice, if this returns a 8, 9, 10, or 11, it's null. If it's null, it gives us nothing. So this actually slows down our unit production from the portals currently. Now, mind you, spiders every 8 seconds drop an egg sac that gives us 3 spiderlings that we have to kill. So this speeds up our unit production. This slows down our unit production. Overall, in the long term, on average, we're going to have more things on the screen from this, and they're going to be coming from more angles. So this is still going to cause the game to be more complicated, which is good, because the game is overly simplified currently. But yeah, so great. Let's see, what do we got here? We got we need to pass the egg sac. Oh, that's correct. So good. Now we can pass an egg sac. New egg sac. New vector 2, and that's just going to be the position of everything and the owner ID. And I think we need another paren. Yep. Okay, so pose.x, pose.y. Okay. Alright, so spider egg sacs should spawn every 8 seconds, but the first one after 4 seconds. They should spawn 3 spiderlings. Spiderlings should be fast. Spiderling does not override the AI. It will eventually. But right now it does not override the AI, so it's the same AI as an imp. And yeah, that I think will do it. Let's give it a run. Got our portals. Ooh, there we go. We got dudes. And something crashed. That's fine. We don't want to do that. Forgot to move that line of code. Ooh. We did not change out the spiderling's look. And I didn't change out the size of the thing. Let's quickly jump into main. I am done with this tiny little screen. I click off of it a million times, so I'm sure you guys have noticed. It'll now be much bigger. Yay. Our spiderling was still using the wrong image. So I think that happened because we didn't... Oh boy, we did that wrong also. We didn't change it out at all. Alright, units, mobs, spider, rename. Done. Spiderling. Done. Okay. 3 was really fast. Let's go to 2.5. And build. Much larger, obviously. We have our spider. 2, 3 shots. Oh, didn't die till 3 shots. That little spiderling was fast. Look at those things. Now notice they all come in from different angles now because those egg sacs are spawned in different locations. Egg sac's not using the right art. We'll fix that. But because of that, we get lots of different angles for things to come in. The complication has... I mean, I'm having trouble killing it all, to be honest. Legitimately, which is kind of cool because I don't suck at this kind of stuff. Alright, so cool when you just fix the egg sac art, and I think we're done. So egg sac, it's using portal, we need to use egg sac, and I think we're good to go now. So again, this is the first of these tutorials to deal with the spider. We have, there's our egg sac art, we have substantially increased the complexity of the game, which is cool because we have 2, actually technically 3 mobs, which we can now edit the AI for. And yeah, that concludes this tutorial, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. We went through a lot. I know it was a ton to cover. I know it's relatively a long one. The next one will also be pretty long. But by the end of it, we'll have... Oh, notice this, the egg sac disappeared after the 3rd one. But after we get a little bit more in-depth on our mobs, the game will become a lot more fun. And it doesn't need to be fun really yet, but ooh, I'm getting hit. But it's nice when it gets to be a little fun, and you can show your parents or your friends or your girlfriends or boyfriends or whatever it is that you're making a little game. You can do your own AI, you can make your own mobs, yada yada yada. And I recommend that you do. If you just want to follow along with what I'm doing, that's wonderful. But if you want to start creating your own game off this information and this knowledge, I highly recommend it. I think that would be great. Past that, this tutorial is it's done. We're going to do a lot more with this in the next one. Guys, if you liked it, please make sure that you hit that like button. Make sure that you subscribe if you haven't already. I am absolutely enamored with the amount of subscribers that I've gotten. I know I don't have that many, but I didn't expect to even get this kind of a turnout for this project, and I am absolutely in shock and awe with the response that this has gotten, and I want to thank you all for being a part of it. It makes it a lot easier to do these things when people are paying attention. I was going to do them anyway, but it feels a lot better when I know I might be helping people to learn to do what they may end up loving. Thank you guys again for being here, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you so much.